how to prepare for meeting a person that evokes mixed feelings in you. Hello and welcome to Communication Psychology and HR. My name is Gerhard. I'm a psychologist from Hamburg, Germany, specialized in international, intercultural and multi-language contexts. In today's world, we want ever more simplicity. The world around us becomes more complex, more turbulent, also in the economy and politics. However, if we apply this tendency to simplify everything in our communication with humans, then we have a great risk that we create more problems that could have been solved if we approached it a bit more realistically. For example, the realistic approach is, if you think of any person, your husband, your wife, your children, your co-workers, your client's boss, and so on, you will find that you have a mixed bag of feelings towards them. So there are things you like, you dislike, things that make you angry, things that make you laugh. So actually, there's almost no human being that evokes a completely negative or completely positive emotion in you. In some situations, positive, and some neutral, and some negative. That's a realistic approach. So if you meet at work any person and you become more sensitive to what's going on inside of you, introspection, you will observe that it's not so clear what you think of the other person and what happens in a meeting with that person. Then if you have no clarity about all the voices, all the opinions towards that person that are somewhere inside of you, you may get unexpected surprises. Your body language will betray something that's going on inside of you. So the more we try to stick to one interpretation of the other person, the higher the risk that something from inside of you will come to the surface through some gestures, facial expressions that you cannot control. And the other person gets a feeling that you are not coherent, that there is something not clear about you. For example, you as a supervisor have to discipline somebody. So somebody is always coming late or not respecting deadlines. If you think about that concrete person, probably you'll find very many positive aspects. He's a competent person, likable, sociable, but there are things you don't like. And how to approach such a conversation? Ideally, before meeting that person, you map it out in your head a bit, or even on paper if it's a very important meeting. Of course, you cannot do this for every single interaction you have. And try to listen to your inner team, your inner voices, inner parts. What do they say about this other person? And like imagine all your ideas are actually a choir of an inner team, and you as the manager ask them, what do you think about this specific coworker? And then some of them will immediately react and say something positive or negative, but some team members, they hold back with their assessment. So you need to create an atmosphere that all your inner team members are not afraid to share their opinion. So you listen to them, and then you try to negotiate it a joint position that would satisfy all of them. For example, if you go with a negotiated position into the meeting with the employee, then you will have it much easier to say that directly to the other person, to make it clear that, well, I appreciate certain qualities in you, and that's heartfelt or sincere, and you make it clear what you appreciate in the person, not like sandwich techniques, which feels mechanical, but so you try to give the other person a realistic picture of what is inside of you, to then also come to the critical points. So if you don't do this, you run into the risk of doing several mistakes. One mistake is you listen to one voice inside of you that likes the other person, and then the other person, the coworker, goes out from this meeting feeling that, well, there was no problem at all, doesn't understand the seriousness of the problem you were trying to convey. And lots of meetings at work happen like this. The supervisor thought he disciplined another person, but the other person gets the message, we are best friends, everything is fine, and then later is surprised when fired or reprimanded. So we may, if we don't map it out what our inner team has for opinions, we run into the risk to listen to one dominant voice. This dominant voice can be conciliatory with the other person or best friends, and the other person gets the impression that everything is permissible in this company. Or maybe you listen to a voice that wants to punish the employee, and then the other person gets out of the meeting with, nobody wants me here, I'm a total failure, I need to resign immediately, because you didn't communicate the other parts of you that appreciate this coworker. So this sounds a bit complicated, but I think we overcomplicate it here. Even if you realize before getting into a meeting that you have different opinions of that person, if you have an inner plurality and you run down maybe 20 seconds different opinions circulating in your head about this person, already will make it more probable that your communication will be more balanced and more nuanced for the other person than if you try to shut down your inner dialogue and just rely on your intuition, because then you will be guided by different situational clues. So for example, if if you went into the meeting and you want to be very strict, and the other person somehow compliments you, is in a good mood, tells a joke, maybe has even shared a success, then you may be guided into the direction of, well, everything is fine, and you can't achieve your goal of disciplining the person. So the more inner clarity you have, the more you control what you actually want to express during the conversation, and you are not driven into different directions by the concrete situation. Sounds complicated? Try it out, or try mapping out what you think about people around you, and try to see what inner team members think about your boss, your husband, your wife, and we see it's nuance. And we as human beings want simplicity, but in such a situation, we need also, it's a quality we need to develop. We need somehow to tolerate ambiguity and complexity. And the more we watch short videos and get all piecemeal, the less we lose this human ability to tolerate, for a half an hour, maybe for a month, contradictory positions. That's, every human being is a contradiction. We are never always friendly, always compliant, always disciplined. So we ourselves are very complicated. And we need to come to grips with that reality. Otherwise we fall into traps of manipulation, illusions, and that is not productive. So please share your ideas, and we see you next week. Bye bye.